Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Ba 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 ba. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun Reviews, and we are back. It is October, and we are doing our Halloween reviews, and it's 2021. This is the second annual series of doing Halloween reviews. You know, I was never big into Halloween when I was a kid, being in a Jehovah's Witness for like a long time, and you know, growing up in that, never trick or treating, and just holidays in general are never my thing. But you know, I've just really enjoyed so much last year talking about a bunch of horror and scary and whatever kind of Halloweenish movies that fit the month of October and fall, my favorite season. And so we're back. We're going to be doing a whole bunch more of these. In fact, I think we're going to do more than we did last year. And today we're starting with a movie that I've been meaning to see for a long time. So technically this is a Rob's Never Seen episode of our Halloween reviews. We're talking about the 1986 film House. Now, when you look up House, a lot of things pop up. But this was the movie that came out on February 28th of 1986. I was 11 years old. And, oh wait. No, I was 10. I was 10 years old when this came out. And it stars, well, let's go over the cast, right? Because you know I love me a cast. So this is a very TV cast. Even though this is a rated R film, this is a, you know, full-on, you know, wide release. But you got Greatest American Heroes, William Katt. Okay, first off, I mean, believe it or not, he's in this movie. Who I really, you know, I really liked him in this. I don't really know what happened to him. I know he's been in and out of things. I don't know. I haven't looked at his IMDb, but he was a big, you know, he was all over the 80s. And then he just kind of disappeared to me. Of course, George Wendt, who's in this. Norm. You've got Richard Moll, who was Bull from Night Court in this. You've got Kay Lenz, Mary Staven, Michael Ensign, who was the concierge, I believe, in Ghostbusters, the one who, like, they destroyed the place, and he's like, oh my god. Alan Autry, Susan French. It always goes back to the X-Files. I wish my poster was over in the background. Maybe I should just move it so it is. There. How about that? It always goes back to the X-Files. Stephen Williams, a younger Stephen Williams. This would be around the time that he was in, he had that bit part in Better Off Dead when he says, like, it's a damn shame what people throwing away a perfectly good white boy. This is around that time. This might have been a year or two after that. I'm not sure. But Stephen Williams is in this as cop number 4. But he, you know, it says cop number 4, but there's really only 2 cops. They were like 4 outside, but cop number 3 and cop number 4 are the ones that go inside. So what happened to cops 1 and 2? Whatever. Mindy Sterling, who is a comic actress, a lot of comedies. She was in the Austin Powers movie. She was Frau Forbidna. I'm butchering that name, but that's how I'm going to say it. She has one line, or like one moment in this at the beginning of the movie. You got Jim Calvert as the grocery boy. Billy Beck, John William Young, Jason Kane, Steve Susskind, William McLean, Peter Petofsky, and Felix Silla. So, yeah, this movie is Bananas. Yes, this movie is bananas. Bananas. It's bananas. This movie is fucking bananas. It's only an hour and a half long, and it pretty much has no rules. There's like a couple of them that are just pretty like just one really. It's everything that happens like kind of triggers off at midnight. Other than that, basically this house is kind of like this vortex to a hell dimension, where whoever's inside it, it knows, like, as soon as you go in. I don't know what the rules are for that either. It's like basically the house knows everything about you and will pull from everything that's in your head to freak you out, to try to get you to die. And that's one of the cool things about this, because this is just nuts. There's really no logic to it. You know, you can't think too hard about this. I was trying to really take it seriously for a while, but what this really is, it's like the very first Tales from the Crypt movie. You know what I mean? Like, there was Tales from the Crypt, the show on HBO, like maybe a couple of years after this they started. This feels like the initial, like, if somebody was going to write a Tales from the Crypt movie, this would be a great Tales from the Crypt. Because it's really goofy. It's got some scares, but it's just, I could never get too serious about it. There are some moments where I'm like, ooh. But they would always undercut it with, like, goofiness. And so, but that's not really a hindrance to the movie. I just had to tweak my attitude about it rather quickly. So the plot of this movie, though, is William Katt has an aunt, and she's found hanging in her house by the grocery boy. Because I'd say, remember when people deliver groceries to your house? But that's now, it's not even a dated joke, because we've gone full circle, and now a lot of people get stuff delivered, you know, groceries back to their house. They don't have grocery boys like that come up on their, well, see, again, I can't even say that. You can't say that somebody doesn't show up on a moped with your stuff. We've gone full circle. It just happened because of COVID. And it got big because of COVID. Everybody's getting everything delivered now. So you can't even make a good solid joke there. But the grocery boy goes into the house and finds Aunt Elizabeth hanging there. And by all accounts and purposes, Aunt Elizabeth would have never done anything like this. But we only know this by one guy. One guy goes, she'd never do this. And it's like, oh, okay. He's the exposition guy to tell us that information, so that we know, yeah, she, you know, people thought she was a kook, but she really wasn't a person who would commit suicide. And William Katt, whose name is Roger Cobb, he is a famous horror writer of, you know, like books like a Stephen King. And he is like the beneficiary to all of this, her house, and he's also like haunted by a lot of things. He went to Vietnam. It's 1986, so he would have been like 24, you know, like in his 20s when he was in Vietnam. And apparently it really fucked him up, which is not, you know, hard to say that happened. That's pretty prevalent. And his son went missing. His son goes missing in the middle of the day, just vanishes. Right behind him. He's there. He's not. They try to do like a... and yeah, full spoilers, so go watch this movie and come back. Like, you think they pull a little stunt where you think maybe the kid's in this car that's peeling away, but you see somebody in the pool looking like they're drowning. He jumps into the pool and he's not there, and so his son's been missing ever since. And so he went to Vietnam. He's messed up for that. His Aunt Elizabeth is dead. Because his son went missing, his like soap opera actress wife, who's played by Kay Lenz. Her name is Sandy in the movie. She divorces him. He's gotten behind in his books. He's getting ready to have to like give back like advances on the books that he's supposed to write, and he's wanting to write his memoir about Vietnam because he's just can't get over it, and he thinks that if he writes about it, maybe it'll free his soul up. Although it's got one of the worst titles. His book is One Man's Story, A Tale of the Vietnam War, or something like along those lines. It's like, man, dude, you're a writer and you can't even write a good title for your Vietnam War book. Like, by the end of it, you should have just called it I'll Get You for This. That would have been a perfect title. I'll Get You for This, you know, one man's story, and then put like a story of Vietnam or my Vietnam story or something like that, right? I just made one up that's better than that. And so he's got all these issues, and he, instead of selling the house, he goes and stays there because she thought it was haunted. He wants to know what happened to her, but also because his son went missing there, he believes that the answer to all of this is there. Plus, he thinks he can write his Vietnam book in solitude, and anything but solitude happens here. And it's just nuts. It's got a cheesy, like creepy, cheesy soundtrack that you can't really take seriously. They pull little musical tricks on you just when like scares are coming. But it's all just really goofy. But at times, yes, there are a few jump scares. There are a few really creepy moments. There's a lot of creepy imagery. But some of it's undercut because a lot of this is just, I mean, kudos for the practical effects, okay? We all love our practical effects. We all, you know, like CGI is great when it can be done and done well and necessary and stuff. But the 80s and 90s, you know, well, mostly the 80s. The 90s when they started pulling CG from everything and making everything look fake that doesn't hold up now. Like, at least practical effects, you know, some of that stuff looks fantastic. Look at movies like The Thing. But this is just like rubber suits, monsters. The closet monster looks okay, and the way they shoot it, where you can't really get a good look at it, you know, even though it's huge, it's effectively creepy looking. But there's like this giant like female monster that's just a guy in a suit, and it's not creepy, it's hilarious. But it's like I said, it's hilarious in a good way. You know, like killer clowns from outer space kind of suit. So I dug this. Once I adjusted my attitude, I really dug it. George Wendt plays the neighbor named Harold, who is there for comic relief, there for support of the character, but also to be a hindrance. He's also the guy who calls the cops on him. He's the guy that's kind of potentially getting him in trouble and setting up conflict and drama for the character. But all the while, William Katt is really fantastic in it. I really enjoyed his performance. He carries it a lot. And it has a lot of nice, fun twists and turns. And because there's no rules, it just really works. One of the things that doesn't work, though, is the Vietnam stuff. I mean, and when I say works, I mean it looks so fake. It's so clearly nowhere but just a really cheap looking set that you're supposed to feel tension. You know, that's when they're all busting out the fucks and we're gonna get Charlie's gonna kill us, and you're supposed to feel that tension. But then you've got Bull from Night Court standing there as Big Ben, who's just being bit. You know, he's not bald. He's got dark hair, and he's just moving. You know, and like just the weird, tall, creepy guy in the Vietnam squad, and it just. While you know that for the character this has fucked him up hard, while I'm watching it, I don't feel it because it just doesn't translate. It does not look well. It's not written great. And so much of that, I can't go back and say it enough, is how it just looks. If you don't feel like you're there, they don't even really give you like a lot of reasons to why it scarred him. You know, I think a lot of us have seen enough Vietnam movies or war movies in general where You see the trauma, you feel the trauma, you understand what they're going through, and this just doesn't pull that off at all, like at all. Even when they're showing shooting and killing and stuff of the enemy, it's so fake, and but again, it looks like a Tales from the Crypt. And so when you think of it like that, you just go, okay, suspension of disbelief. This guy went through it, he feels it, so I understand. Now, some of that stuff does work, little things like his nightmares when he's like in the jungle and his son is there, and then there's this like undead hand that comes up. That's pretty creepy. When he sees the pool and that triggers the memory of his son going missing. That was really kind of like, what the fuck just happened? Like, where did his kid go? I really wanted to know because it just didn't make any sense. But really, like right away, when he gets in there, he sees his aunt. And it's not even at midnight. So it's like, like I said that the rules were really that nothing happens until midnight, but I guess I'm wrong already. She shows up like right at the beginning, says, it tricked me. Don't let it trick you. Get out of the house. It was the house that did it. And so she's just, it won. It tricked me. It will trick you too. It knows everything about you. So, and then she disappears. We never see her again. Except in like a flashback for when the son went missing. There's a really funny neighbor, and not George Wendt. There's this like super sexy, like blonde, like she's like a Swedish bikini model looking lady, played by Mary Staven, who I believe, I think she's like from like that area, like Sweden or Switzerland or something. And they set her up as to be like the sexy neighbor that something's gonna go on because this is rated R, man. Like we're gonna probably see some like sexy times here because she shows up in the middle of the day like swimming in his pool, and she's like, oh, your aunt would like, I can't do Swedish, I'm not gonna try. She's like, but your aunt let me just come over whenever I wanted to, and she's like all hot looking in her bathing suit, and she's like, he's just killed this monster, or whatever he thinks is a monster, right? And he's like gonna bury it in the backyard. And she, like the hands coming out of the garbage bag to like get at him, and is it really happening? You don't really know. She doesn't seem to notice, but see, that's we'll have to get to this. She's like, oh, I know when a man wants to work and when he wants to play. Let me know when you want to play, right? And it's like, ooh, it's on. When she shows up at his house, and she's she's there like looking like she's ready to go on a date, she's ready for him, and he's like, oh, like he's gone through some shit, and she's just at the door, and even though he's stressed out, he takes one look at her and goes, swing. Except that's not why she's there. They fool us, and I love, this was one of my favorite parts of the entire movie because they throw you for the loop. You think you're gonna get the hot and sexy time, and instead she brings her son Robert. Yeah, apparently, yeah. I'd say that the buzzkill went down. She brings her son Robert over for him to babysit for her. Now, any normal guy would be like, I ain't babysitting your fucking kid. Get out of here. But he does the thing that they do where in movies and on TV shows where they just go, they can't get the words out. They're like, but, and she just leaves with and goes off probably on a real date. And I thought, but that was genius, is that there was no sexy time with like the Swiss bikini model. She just leaves her kid with him and takes off, leaving him to deal with the kid who's stuck in the house with him, and like monsters come and take the kid and drag him up the chimney. It's all a thing. It's funny as hell. Like this, there's like the swordfish comes alive that's hanging on the wall, and it's just going off, and then the tools in the garage start attacking him. There's a great moment where the monster's like beating him up, this like female huge ogre looking thing just trying to kill him, and he opens the door, and the tools that he tricked, like he tricked the tools into, like, no, he didn't trick them. He left them in the garage, and somehow they got into the house, and they've been chasing him the whole time, which is a really funny, like, cartoon joke where there's a knock on the door, and he opens it, and there's like a shovel and an axe just hovering there, like, hi. And when he leaves, to run from the monster, he opens the door, and all the tools are there ready to kill him. He ducks, and they kill the monster. So here's where we have to get to, like, the thing is, like, sometimes you don't know if things are actually happening, and sometimes they're a trick. Because initially, right, this monster shows up when Sandy shows up, his ex-wife. She's there all in this nice, like, very sexy dress. And she's like, oh, I come to help you. Are you okay? And this shotgun shell rolls off the table because he's, like, been running around firing a shotgun because he's freaking out and shooting things. And when he turns around and she goes for the shotgun shell, she comes up, and she's not Sandy, she's this big monster. And he shoots the monster, and when he goes to get the monster, there's Sandy laying there. And I went, oh, fuck. Did this just take that dark turn? Did this just finally go, oh, God, like, this is how the house tricks you, right? He picks her up. Harold calls the neighbor, George Wendt, calls the cops. They come. He says that somebody's trying to kill themselves. And he takes the body, and he hides it in, like, the crawl space under the stairs. First thing, another way you can not take this movie seriously is if you shoot somebody in the chest with a double-barreled shotgun at close range, there's going to be blood everywhere. There was no blood. There was no blood anywhere. First clue that either this isn't happening or how can you take any of this seriously if this actually happened? And the cops roll up, and you're just sitting there with a shotgun, you'd be covered in blood. It'd be just blood splatter everywhere. Haven't you seen Dexter? And so this part, like, the house is just messing with him. He didn't shoot anybody. It's not there. But other times, like when George Wendt comes over to help him with, hunt the raccoons, he tricks him into coming to the house. And the guys that, I've got some raccoons trapped in the closet. When he opens the door, the monster is there, and George Wendt sees it. And, in earlier, the scratches that he got are really there. So some of this stuff is actually happening, and some of it's not. And they just pick and choose when things are going to be real and when they're not, just to fit the story. They just say, fuck it. And so, I mean, look, this is not a great movie as far as, like, what people would consider great. Is it entertaining? Fucking A, yes it is. You can turn your brain off and enjoy this film quite a bit, as long as you know what you're getting into, and you can't. Like, if you're going to be one of those people who just sits there and goes, well, that's not real, and that's real, it's like, no shit, Sherlock, but just try to enjoy it. And I'm one of those people that I have to really focus to do that. Like, I will tear apart a movie that's just bad, but if it's bad, but well done bad, and it knows what it is, because this movie knows what it is. It really does. And I have to give a tip of the hat to Steve Miner, the director, and written by Ethan Wiley, and the story by Fred Decker. Also, these guys are the guys that did Monster Squad, and spoiler alert, we're talking about Monster Squad this month, so look out for that bad movie as well. Because that one, see, this is good. This is a good movie. Monster Squad, we'll talk about it. It meant a lot to my childhood, but we'll talk about it in a little bit. So, we find out, like, that Roger's convinced that there's a place in this house where his son is. He just has to find it. The problem is that they try to he should be focusing on that instead of the book, because that's just a subplot that just doesn't really need to be there. But they need it there just to establish the Big Ben character and how this guy is his major regret and thing that's going to haunt him Like, because when she says at the beginning, when Anne Elizabeth says, like, this place knows you, none of that other stuff matters. All the weird monsters and stuff, none of that's tailored to him. The tools coming at him, the swordfish banging off the wall, the little weird midget monsters, that has nothing to do with what's inside this guy's head. They're just randomly there. They're just random kooky monsters. The only thing that comes is at the very end with the Vietnam stuff. So he finds that when he goes to look at this picture that his aunt had been painting, which is all creepy, and this whole movie is filled with these creepy paintings she's been painting, that she's been seeing shit her whole life. Can you imagine being Aunt Elizabeth, living in this house the whole time, never leaving? People think you're crazy because every time midnight hits, fucking shit goes cuckoo bananas. And she's painting stuff she sees because, again, this place is a vortex, and she's been fighting this fight for her whole life, probably since her husband died. So he sees on this painting, there's this like door to a closet that his aunt's standing in front of, and that's the closet that he knows. He pulls his rag over, and there's the bathroom sink mirror that he's been going to where his pills are at. And in the mirror is his son. So his aunt had painted a picture of the son inside the house. Now, why she didn't just come right out and say that, unless this was like a very late painting that she drew before she had a chance to tell him. But if you saw it, why wouldn't you tell him, like, hey, come to the house and, you know, your son's here, but then plot, right? Then you don't have a movie. So he goes and he busts out the mirror, and it opens to like another dimension. Like, the mirror is like right next to the wall, and the other side of the wall is nothing. The house, it's the end of the house. It's the empty, it's sky, it's air. So he's like looking out. So clearly this thing just opens up to some hell dimension. I don't even know what. It's just all black. Bunch of rubber monsters, claws, all come trying to pull him in there. But he ropes up, and he jumps in there to go get his son, and he finds him. He first this flying monster comes, grabs his shotgun, shoots the rope. He falls into a bunch of water, and then swims up, and on the shore is his son, who, good lord, okay. Again, you're gonna have to say, like, how do the rules work in this hell dimension? Has his son only been there for the kid? Has he only been in there for like a day? Because if you figure that he's been missing, and they've been calling the FBI, and he's been harassing the FBI and the CIA to find his son. He lost his wife. They are divorced, right? So that's a long process. You don't just lose your kid and then immediately just get divorced. Like, there's all these things that you have to go through. Then you have to look for your kid. You have to go through all that stuff. You have to get to the point where the FBI doesn't know what to do. That's a long time. So how long's that kid been in there? So the rules are, like, time is different there because the kid looks fine. Who's been feeding him? He's in a bamboo cage being taken care of by undead Big Ben, who's there to keep him captured because he thinks William Katt's Roger will eventually figure out how to find him, and then he can kill him in there or whatever. Again, it's the house messing with him, but like, they're keeping the kid trapped in there. Well, he gets his kid out, and they go back in the water, and of course, into the water means they lead out through the pool. So when the kid was actually in the pool at the beginning of the movie, he was in the pool. He just got sucked into the vortex of the house. How? I don't fucking know. I don't really care. But they get out of the pool, and they get inside, and they go to the front door, and Big Ben's standing there all undead. Now, I'm pretty sure this is Richard Moll in this big skeleton-like costume, and it's all rubber, and it looks like shit. But it's funny because he's Richard Moll, and he's talking crap to the guy. But again, you can't take it seriously. You're just waiting for everything to work out. Or will it? Because that's the other thing, is like a lot of Tales from the Crypts make you think everything's okay, and then in the end, everything is not. But they're running around, right? there's a point where like a wall opens up to a cliffside over water and rocks, and William Katt's hanging on the edge, and he uses his belt to fling his Richard Moll's character off the cliff. But as soon as he gets up and he tries to go get his son, Richard Moll is standing there like, "Would you really think that was gonna work?" Like literally cartoon shit. Like Droopy, right? Like you drop Droopy off a cliff, you run away, you go all the way back home, you open the front door and there's Droopy standing there. Like, "Hello, Joe." And he's like, "You really thought that was going to work?" And he's like, he's got a knife to his kid's throat and he's like, "I'm going to kill you. If you don't kill yourself, I'm going to kill your kid." And this is the end of it. Like, this is the gist. The house wants you to kill yourself, just like his aunt did. Now, how did his aunt survive this long and not be tricked? What did it show her to make her hang herself? Because she'd been living like with this for a long time. This guy, he's just like, "I'm going to kill your kid if you don't kill yourself." So maybe maybe the house showed her something and she actually believed it was going to happen. Maybe she showed them, like, "I'll kill Roger if you don't, kill yourself." Well, Roger realizes in that moment that the house can't hurt him. It wants you to do something to yourself. Even though that thing scratched him. That thing would have killed him. It came out of the closet. I have no doubt in my mind. That monster that was running around the house, the shotgun, it actually hit him with the shotgun, so it could hurt you. The tools that were flying around in the house could stab him. They were happening, but if they did, right? I believe that if they did, the rules of this movie would suddenly change, and he'd find out that there were no actual wounds. So the script is just basically there are no rules. It's just cartoon logic, and if you can handle that, you can like this movie. Well, once he realizes that the house has no more control over him, he takes a hand grenade that Bull has. I'm going to just call him Bull. And he sticks it into his chest cavity. He's like, what does he say to himself? "So long, sucker." And he actually explodes. And the house is on fire now. Harold sees it. Sandy pulls up in a taxi cab. She sees it. So, I mean, George Wendt saw the monster that came out of the closet when they were fighting it. So, again, the rules are weird. Because there are none, really. Unless they just pick and choose. Now, this is the happy ending, right? Sandy shows up. The kid's there. He's like a hero, right? He's got his kid in his arms. The house is on fire, but everybody just saw an explosion. And now Roger's just standing there with his kid. And Sandy's like, "Oh, and Mommy," and everybody's all happy, right? And the kid runs to the mom, and she's happy, and they're crying. It's all supposed to be great, and he freeze frame the end of the movie. Hero music. But really, and this is where I get to be the downer of it, right? Is the reality of this is, explain what you were doing with your kid. How are you going to tell everybody? Because, like, yes, George Wendt can back you up and say, "Yeah, I saw the monster in the closet." But you tried telling that to the cops. You tried telling that to anybody else. You tried telling that to the mom. She'll just say you guys are a bunch of losers and drunks and you went off the deep end. You've had my son this whole time. And you've gone crazy. And even the kid, you ask the kid what happened to him. He's going to be like, "Well, I went to the pool and I woke up and I was in a bamboo cage and there was this Vietnam guy and he was holding me hostage." None of it's believable. So you're supposed to just believe, and I guess, fine, right? It's all good. But my brain goes to, in real life, Daddy goes to jail. Probably George went to for like a little, like much less time, but like... nobody's going to believe this. Kid's going to psychologically be fucked. Anyway, he's going to be screwed up anyway, all right? Because it actually happened to him. But even if Daddy doesn't go to jail, he will be messed up forever. This is like therapy for everyone involved, except for, I don't know, maybe the wife. No, she's probably going to need therapy too. But that's House, and it is a blast. And it does have some scares, and it has a lot of fun, and it's just weird. And I think I needed that. I'm glad I'm talking about this one first, because, I don't find a lot of these things scary. There's a lot of jump scares. There's a lot of startling that goes on. This It's creepy enough at times. It's funny enough at times. You don't have to take it too seriously. It's a good popcorn movie. It's a good movie to watch with a group of people. And so I highly recommend it. I don't give grades. Like sometimes lately I've been having people go, "What's your score for something?" I'm like, "I don't know. It was good. You either watch it or you don't." Well, it's, I'll give it a thumbs up. I'll give it a 3.5 out of 5. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. No, 6.5 out of 10. Yeah, 6.5 out of 10. There's like 3 grades for you right there. So, House from 1986. Pretty damn funny. Pretty damn good. Really glad I watched it. So, if you liked this review, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, and the bell for all notifications. Otherwise, if you we can give you a better memory. So, for those of you who did like it, please put on shades or look away. For those of you with slight sensitivity, do not look at this fucker. And we will give you, that didn't like it, look right here, and we'll give you a better memory. Enjoy this spooky memory. Have a great night. See you on the next one of these. Bye.
It tricked me. I didn't think it could, but it did.
What?
It's going to trick you too, Roger. This house knows everything about you. Leave while you can.